said, I thought it was so great that people in the group were so cooperative and egoless in the sense of I didn't have any sense of people, being competitive or whatever. They were just great. Everybody was.
I mean, the first week I was teaching Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I still had energy. I wasn't too tired. And the lessons I taught were just like lessons I never taught before. I was able to really understand what I was seeing, how to guide the student, and then the results were just instant. And not only that, the thing that blew me away was that how delighted the children were to recognize their own physical capacity more deeply. It was stunning. And I mean, a little girl who had just been so quiet in her lessons, kind of like, she just opened up and she started babbling, and she had all sorts of fantasies about this finger and that finger and how this was like. And she's a very object kinesthetic child, and to give them even more, insight about how it all works is just so fun for them.
Empowering.
Like recognizing their own capacity. You could just see it. I was like, it was a window I didn't even know I could open.
Yeah, I appreciated the warmth and sensitivity with which you conducted the lessons and took each of us as individuals where we were coming from, and respected us as people. Didn't just look at us as deficient, but rather used a model where you worked with what we had and then tried to get us to do more or develop in a more integrated fashion.
It was so much more than the first year. That's what I was really struck by. Like the first year was like a framework, and then I didn't follow through on it as well as I might have. But even without that, the second year was like, oh, now all this stuff has some place to hang on to. So much richer. I felt like my understanding just leapfrogged.
Last night's concert to me, I think I would have been in another car crying. It was the quality of sound and personhood, the attitude of reverence for what their people were trying to do. So simple, so humble, so there was no ego, and that was really. In some ways, it says so much about the quality of the teaching that you've instilled this around.
Young man.
Oh, I thought it was.
I love that.
Go for it. You're in your turn.
You are a medical doctor. We'd say you have a great bedside manner. So you have a great benchside manner. I mean, having had my last teacher having been someone that threw shoes at people during the lesson. But you're great. I really appreciate that because you make everyone feel at ease. One thing I noticed last night, I was practicing that nocturne, and I noticed this passage with the left hand with the thumb. It's like a triplet figure, and all of a sudden it was just like I felt my thumb come alive. It's like I had been sort of flopping it on the note in the past, and that I noticed a difference in the sound, and it just so I feel like my thumbs have sort of come alive after this session. It helps the sound quite a bit.
Yours is a beautiful sound.
What I really got out of your week and your teaching was just from the point of view. I mean, everyone kind of has their own temperament and how they learn and things like that. And the thing I really appreciate about, which I'm sure Kemal would probably disagree with, but what I like is it was kind of your systematic and an analytic approach to it, which I really find helpful because that's just kind of how I deal with things. Like I'd always have teachers and they would give me stuff and I would just try to make a framework out of it in my mind, whereas you kind of had that from the beginning and then kind of flow from that. And that just really helps me personally because that's kind of how I learn.
Right.
And it's more it's kind of works together because the more you break it down, the more it can kind of naturally synthesize. You don't have to force it because at least you just kind of can sort it out better in my mind at least. So just that element of it was really helpful for me. And then just if I had to if I had to put the Institute in one word, it would just be sound. And everyone said something about that, but it's like, and I guess the only suggestion that I'd have would be to do something. It was related to what Christine said the other day, whereas I felt like in the beginning, the first couple of lessons, I really couldn't, when you said, oh, can you hear the difference in that sound? I really couldn't. And it took me a couple of days before I could really say, oh yeah, I could hear the different quality of that. I think it was great for me right where I'm at now with my development as a musician. And the last note I'll add is just kind of the community was just everyone has kind of brought something to the table, and the attitude was very supportive, and that really helps this stuff to just blossom, once it's there. So thank you, Alan, and thank you, everyone.
We're glad you could stand us old people. I was worried about you in the beginning there. I thought, oh, this guy's just going to run screaming out of the